Let's start once more. Hello friend, how are you today? Welcome to Crumbling with me, with Raquel, the podcast where we invite real stories, we dig deeper into trauma and we grow together. And today I wanted to talk about this concept of the light and darkness, or light and shadows. And this concept makes reference to, on one hand, we have the lights, which both in spirituality and just in general society would be considered the positive emotions. So love, joy, happiness, etc. And then on the other hand, we have the shadows or the darkness, so the negative emotions. So fear, shame, anger, etc. And I wanted to bring this conversation. First, I wanted to say that both are as important as each other. We need both light and darkness in our lives. They're both sides of the same coin. And I really like this analogy where in order to be able to see the stars, we need the dark night sky. And we have life, we have death. Nature is at the same time beauty, but it's also destructive, and we need both. We need both. And another example I can think of is that, I was born in Barcelona, and as you can imagine, it's pretty sunny. So, I never appreciated the sun. I never appreciated a nice day because I knew that the day after was going to be nice too. So I didn't start appreciating the sun until I moved to the UK, where, hey, it's not that sunny. And then when we get a really nice sunny day, I'm like, wow, this is so beautiful. And especially in the spring when everything is green and the flowers are out, and that's only possible because of the clouds, because of the rain. So that was the first thought that I wanted to bring in, and that is, don't be afraid of the shadows, don't be afraid of the negative emotions, don't try to erase them, because they're natural and we need them. And it's human to have them. So if you feel them, yeah, you're human. So from there, I would like to tell you a little bit more about how I experienced this, because I obviously, grew up and I didn't really get into my emotions too much. My mom was more emotional and more negative, and my dad was the positive one. And it was like, well, think positive, and you see things in a better light and you get less sad and stuff like that. So I adopted that kind of mentality, that positivity. And, it did work. And later on, when I was maybe 19 and 20, and I started going into more spiritual, psychological topics, I read The Power of Now, about being present in the moment. I read a psychology book about cognitive therapy, which is about how your thoughts create your emotions, and how negative, terrible, thoughts like, oh my god, this is gonna be terrible, they're gonna kick me out, or I'm gonna lose my job, how those thoughts is what creates, the anxiety, the fear, the sadness, the anger. But, that was useful at the time. And I started with this kind of, and I think a lot of people does this when they start this journey of starting on the positives, things that makes us feel better, And I think it helps for a while. It's like, well, I want these good things in my life, so I'm gonna leave all these good, emotions, talk to me positively, try to be in the present moment. And, I did that for a while, for years. And then I noticed when I moved to the UK, the first years of living here, which I was maybe like 23, 24, towards the 25. Those years, I still had good times, don't get me wrong. But I did start noticing things. I started noticing that I was suffering more social anxiety than ever before. I also had bouts of depression where I just would get numb or numb myself with like TV or my phone or even weed, and try to not think. And also I was getting anxious, depressed. I was also getting, has this ever happened to you when you get, you're alright, some things happen and you're like, oh, it's okay, that's not too bad, la la la. And then suddenly something really stupid happens. And that's like the last straw, and then the monster comes out, and that's all that trapped emotion that you didn't allow yourself to express in the moment, and you were just convinced yourself that it was fine until it's not fine, and then it's like the monster comes out. So that happened to me, and you do feel better after you have these kind of bouts because you release that emotion. But it's not the healthiest way of doing it. It tends to be directed at somebody, and it's not the healthiest way of doing it. So I was having that too, and I was still going out and enjoying going for walks, enjoying the present, and making efforts to not use my phone on the bus so I could appreciate being in the moment. And I was enjoying these things a lot. Like I was able to enjoy the highs more than before because of being present in the moment, the positivities, etc. But I wasn't dealing well with the lows and with just general being me, I also had a lot of procrastination, where I wanted to do things or start routines and I would find myself procrastinating, and at the time, and like most people think that that's laziness, that it's just a lack of will or a lack of purpose. But actually it's not. Procrastination comes because there's some hidden emotion, and usually I found, in my case at least, is fear. My procrastination, I realized later on, came from the fear of not doing things well enough, not being perfect enough, not being good enough, being rejected, etc., etc. So that's how all these hidden emotions, and also emotions from my past that I had not processed as a kid, were like lingering and affecting me in that moment, Then after that, I moved to Bristol, and funnily enough, despite there was COVID and lockdown, that was kind of the time where I started getting better in a way. Of course, I couldn't see my family because I was in the UK, they were in Spain. And I was working all throughout lockdown, so it was quite a stressful time too. But I also started digging deeper into myself, understanding myself better. And I think all started when I read The Artist's Way, which I strongly recommend, even if you don't think you're an artist or a creative, because it actually put into perspective some concepts, especially imperfection and fears and shames, and it does ask you to dig a little bit deeper into why these things happen and to start writing, remember that. And so I started writing, I also started painting, and I started understanding why I was doing things or why I was reacting the way I was doing to certain things. And time went through, I kept painting. Through painting, I was expressing also certain moments in my life, and then certain traumas that I was kind of like getting to know more about, and getting to know how they affected me in the present moment. So, arts definitely had a big role in it. And, allowing myself to feel these shadows and this fear and darkness, shame, all of these things, allowing myself to feel them, the ones from the moment and the ones that came from the past allowed me to kind of get to know them, get to know why they were there, and get to know also how to move through them. Because it's not about getting rid of them. It's not like, oh, if I feel my fear, then I'll get rid of it forever. No, it's not that. And ignoring it won't work neither. As I was saying, it would just bring other things such as depression, anxiety, procrastination. So for me, it was getting to know those parts of myself, being at peace with those parts of myself, allowed me to then move through them. So when they come back now, and they do come back, and yeah, sometimes they affect me for, and I'm like, I get lost into it. Like everybody, I'm human. But I'm much more capable now of recognizing it and being like, oh, wait, this is what it is. And I'm going to move through it, or I'm going to do something to move it, which we will get to at the end. I do want to talk about what things served me and helped me. Okay. And the interesting thing about this podcast, I think, is that we will invite more people, and I have some people that are already confirmed. Yay! And you're going to hear not only my story, but their stories and how they have dealt with their emotions, with their trauma, with their lives. Okay. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yay! But anyway, today, as I mentioned, we've gone through my story and I have a little list. So I wanted to talk also about some kind of steps that I was thinking about, and it kind of came to me, and I thought it could be really useful. It could have been really useful for me when I was at that point in that numbness. So what I see is that, anxiety and depression, they are usually a sign that there's other emotions that we're ignoring, and, they're also a consequence of a stress response. So when we're in a stress response, it's not conscious. You don't choose to be depressed or to be anxious. It's usually a consequence of something that our brain doesn't feel capable to deal with. So, and it's always overwhelming. So for example, in my case, I tend to numb, and I think it's when I don't know how I feel and I feel negative emotions, I just tended to numb. Because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know sometimes what the emotion was or how to deal with it. Or I've seen it, for example, in my partner. He had something hard going on last year, and, he obviously was feeling sad about that, but he was finding lots of different little things, the stupidest things that were causing him anxiety. And it was him that said, I think I'm just using all these little things and all this anxiety to kind of cover up the fact that I'm so worried about this other thing. So, they are stress responses, and, first you need to be aware you're in it. So, for example, my grandma, she apparently has had anxiety all her life. She was telling me last time I saw her. And she gets these panic attacks, and she's like, oh my God, I feel something in my chest, and I feel weird. And she cannot identify that is that anxiety, that is that panic attack again, despite this happened so many times. So you need to be aware you're in that stressful moment, you're in that depression, anxiety, or whatever way it takes for you, that you're in that stress response. That was the first thing, awareness. The second thing, once you know where you're at, is getting out of it. I'm not saying getting out of your depression right now, because, I'm not magical and it's difficult. But if you're in that moment where you're numb or you're feeling stressed, find something to do right now to get out of it. For me, what works really well is going for walks in nature, and I usually just pay attention to what's around me, like the trees and the leaves and how beautiful everything is, and kind of bring myself to the moment, to the present. So that really, really helps me. I think walking is probably my favorite one, especially in nature. But other things that can help me and are really simple is just having a shower or a bath if you're feeling low. or putting some music on. And it kind of immediately changes the vibe and changes the emotions going on. So those are really simple ways of kind of getting a little bit, getting like a foot out, getting a foot out of it. So then you can start wondering. Because, the thing is, you cannot start wondering about where your fears and your feelings come from until you're a little bit out of that stress mode. It's like saying, if a lion was after you, and you wouldn't stop to wonder about, is it really gonna kill me? Is my fear in my belly, or do I feel it in my chest? No, you just run because it's gonna kill you. Do you know what I mean? So you're in that same stress response, and you can't start feeling or analyzing your feelings. You're not feeling in that moment. You're just reacting. So we need to get out of it a little bit. And for these, you need to find what works for you, because we're all different. And as I was saying, for me, a walk or a shower could work really well. If I'm a bit in the mood, maybe dancing would work great. But sometimes, when you're on the sofa feeling depressed, it's not the easiest thing to do. But maybe if I'm anxious, then shaking, shaking can be really helpful. Tapping, breathing, meditation, writing, dancing, baking. Some people make cakes when they don't feel good. Anything that connects you to yourself or to the world around you and that gets you out and moving. It could be cleaning. So you need to find what gets you out of that. And then we can go into the third phase, which is actually feeling your emotions and processing your emotions and understanding your emotions. And I think this can happen in different orders, and that's why I'm kind of putting them all in like a group. And for example, sometimes I know I'm sad, but I struggle to like cry or to fully let myself feel that sadness. And I think if you saw my last video, it's probably because of my childhood and, not wanting to look weak. So now I find difficult letting myself cry. And, sometimes I'm like, I'm sad, and I know I would, I need to go into that sadness, and I'm just kind of in that kind of external bit, and I want to just get deeper because I know it will help me. So what I do is I just put music on, really sad music. Classical music is my top, especially Ludovico Einaudi. That's my sad music. So, that's one example of how I knew how I felt, and I just needed to express it and let myself feel it. But sometimes it's the other way around. I went to this sound bath about a few days back. It was like the second sound bath I went to, and it was like over 2 hours. It was amazing. And, I was pretty happy when I went there. I was excited about the podcast. And I didn't think much was going to happen. But, I lied there, and the music started, and almost immediately I felt the emotions, and I felt my eyes wanting to cry, and they started crying. And initially I didn't know why, they just started, the sadness came out. And then the image of me as a teenager and, trauma that happened at that point, which we will get into at some point. And, I just felt the sadness of that 16-year-old or whatever. And so that's the other thing, sometimes sadness or emotions can be from the moment, from something that just happened. But they can also be stagnant from years and years, from whatever trauma happened. So I allow myself to just go with it, And that was an example of how I started feeling, and I let myself feel something. And then it came to my awareness, this is what it was about. So I think it can go either way. You don't always need to know how you feel to be able to feel. Sometimes you can just let yourself feel, if that makes sense. So, in this third step then, there's things that have helped me a lot, have allowed me to really get into those feelings, to to feel them, and to also understand myself better. Why, are these feelings happening? Where are they coming? Are they from now, or are they stagnant in my body from somewhere in the past? Are these feelings stopping me from moving forward? Is this fear stopping me from moving forward? Is this shame stopping me from being more expressive? And start questioning all these things and start actually feeling those things. So for me, there was a few things that really, really helped me. And again, this is another thing that you're going to have to find what works for you, because we're all different. And I know people that, meditation's been amazing, breath work has been amazing, and, I've tried those, and it helps me, and I do them sometimes because they can be helpful, but they're not as important in my routine, because I found things that I prefer that work for me better. Okay? And it depends. Do you like to be in stillness? Are you able to quiet your thoughts? Or are you just like me, a bit hyper and just thinking about things and, moving and stuff? So, in my case, I prefer other ways. For me, creativity has been a great way. Movement has been amazing. Community has been essential. And rooms have been also, it's just what finished the whole thing and got me even deeper. So in terms of creativity, the way I started when, as I mentioned, I started during lockdown, exploring and expressing, it was writing actually. I did start painting, and painting is what I developed into my art, and I started selling. And yes, painting helped me a lot, but I think in a different way. I think through painting, I expressed with the colors, I expressed emotions, then I expressed certain traumas that I worked through. Like I was understanding myself, and this was getting out in a form of a painting, but also I was doing poems to them and expressing through poems. And also the main thing is I was journaling about all of this. So journaling has been, for me, probably one of the most important things in knowing myself. And I strongly recommend it if you don't do it now. You don't need to do it every day, but I think often enough. And some days it'll be really boring, and it'll be like, well, today I went to the supermarket and I bought some bread and I went back home and that's it, And other days I'm gonna be happy, like, oh, I feel amazing, I want to do all these things. And other days it's just gonna be emotion and questioning yourself and getting deeper. And the way I do it is I don't control what I'm gonna write. When I write, I don't have an idea of what I'm going to write. I just sit with it. It doesn't need to look any specific way. It's just for you. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to sound good. It doesn't even need to make sense. So I just start writing the first word that comes to my head. And then as I'm writing that word, another word comes, and I just go with it. And I flow with it like I'm talking now. And if you think you can't do it, you can, because you can talk, and we can communicate and we can express without having thought about what we're going to say. So that allows me to kind of almost talk to my subconscious. Sometimes I would put questions there, and then I'll answer. It's like I'm having a conversation with myself. And sometimes when I'm feeling low, I kind of start answering and understanding, why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? And towards the end, I start feeling better, and I even can say good things to myself to then make me feel better, So it's been a game changer. Journaling has been a game changer, and, writing in that way, in that flow way, and the same way I would paint also in a flow way. And this is why I'm doing this in this kind of flow speaking, because I think there's more magic within us than we're aware of. And flow gets these things across, something that the mind could not comprehend or control, really. But anyway, again, take up journaling. It's great writing. But yeah, painting has helped me a lot, as I was saying. Also, dancing, which touches with movement. Movement dancing has been also very, very, very useful for me. And I'm able to express a lot through movement. It doesn't necessarily need to be dancing, it could just be shaking. It can be different types of like movement, just movement that feels good. It can be yoga. Dancing specifically, again, maybe it's because I'm a creative person, but I really enjoyed it. Music really makes me feel my emotions and connects me. So dancing and singing have been really important. I've only started singing because I felt really blocked before, and didn't feel like I could do it. And slowly I've been able to kind of open up, and and I'm starting to be able to sing in front of people and to allow myself to sing in front of myself. But dancing again was the same. I was really blocked, and now is my safe space. So if you think there's some things that you can't do, it may not be true. Just saying. Think about it. Journal. But yeah, dancing, especially when I'm angry, it's like that movement. You can really get the anger out. You can really move it. You can feel it. And that's what we need to do with our emotions. Sit with them also. Move them. And, apart from creativity and movement, community has been a really, really big one too. Community and my sisterhood has helped me express my emotions, even inquire my emotions, because you do these sharing circles and everybody's sharing how they're feeling. And sometimes I remember I was the first one to share, and I just said something. And by the time everybody had shared and it arrived to the end, I was like, can I say something else? Because with every emotional share, I was like, oh wow, yes, I've been feeling it. Do you know what I mean? And just seeing myself in these people. So, and apart from that, it's helped me also explore dancing, explore singing with them, having somebody that was doing it with me, and we've been opening up together, exploring our trauma together. And it's just been a way of pushing me deeper and deeper into this and not being alone when I was doing it. And, seeing that other people is in the same path, and then other people has had the same or similar experiences, or even if different experiences, they still have the similar emotions than you do. So I would really recommend finding, a community of like-minded individuals. And, if there's no communities where you live, you could create one, or online. There's loads of communities online. Maybe one day I'll create my community. That would be amazing. So very, 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 very important. Very important. And last but not least, shrooms have been very important, have been probably the last thing that's taken me, even deeper. And I'm not saying you need to have these, you don't. But they help me get even deeper into my emotions. And I've had experiences where I really allow myself to cry, and I realized in that moment how beautiful it was, how beautiful sadness and crying, and how warm it felt when you just were in that sad place. And that's weird to say, because you think, being angry and being sad is not beautiful, it's ugh. But it is if you allow yourself to be there. And it also has shown me emotions that I didn't know were stuck in my body, like anger and hate, like rage, sacred rage. And I will talk about this experience another time, because it was a very powerful experience, and I wasn't aware that I had so much rage inside of me. So, it's been definitely a way through. And the way I've done it has been in a safe space and not as not for recreation, not for fun, although they're fun too, but you know, it's been more to as a therapy almost, and to explore myself. And I've done it most of the times with my partner, and you know, maybe in my house. So it's been, I was sure it was safe. And I'm not saying you should do this, but I'm just being honest about what I have done and how that served me. And you know, I think there's so many ways. You know, try things, try movement, try community, try breath work, try everything you can. And you know, the good thing about finding community too is that they have pushed me to try things I never thought I would try things that I didn't believe in, and then I tried them and I was like, wow, I mean, it helped. You know, I mean, wow, that was amazing. So be open-minded and try new things, and you will find what works for you. And just be kind to yourself. It doesn't matter where you're at right now. It doesn't matter if you haven't explored any of these, or if you're already a specialist. It doesn't matter. You are full and whole as you are. And when we say healing and wounds and light and darkness, it's just ways of understanding. But you are full and complete. You have light and you have darkness, and you know, they're there both beautifully because you're human. And you know, you're complete. You're not damaged. You don't need to heal. But then we do have wounds. We do have emotional wounds that we drag with us, and we can be more us. We can be more expressive. We can let that fullness out. So I invite you to explore this topic, and you know, let me know where you're at and what's been your experience. I would love to know. As I mentioned always, this is not all about me. It's about all of you and everybody's story. And very, very shortly, there's going to be people coming in and telling us their stories too. And, you know, of course, you're invited to tell us your stories. So, yeah, this is the end of the second episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I love to hear your thoughts. And, you know, feel free to follow, subscribe. And I'll see you on the next video. Loads of love from me. Bye-bye. Oh, why would I always say it in a weird way? Okay, bye.